At 78 on the iconic 100 list is the 2017 National Treasures Patrick Mahomes RPA. Today to talk about this card, we have Mike at Mike Bev Celtics from Instagram. Mike, I know that this is a card that you have a lot to say about. What do you think about being number 78 on the list? How does that feel?
You know, you look at a lot of cards in this top 100 list, and for some of them, like this one for me, you could take a dart and throw it on a dartboard, and wherever it lands, you would be happy with it. And that for me is sort of like with this one right here. I think 78 is okay, but I could argue it could go to 50. I could argue go to 25. I could also argue go to 100. But the one thing I really love about this card, and the one reason I really believe it should be on this list, is because it's one of those cards that gapped the old collectors before the collecting boom and the new collectors. It's someone that it doesn't matter when you started collecting. You could have started collecting 20 years ago. You could have started collecting 10 years ago. But if you started collecting in 2020, this was a card to have. This was a card that everybody wanted. And I think that's why it's so important to be on this list. Patrick Mahomes, like Luka in basketball, they were, in my opinion, the two guys that brought all sides together. They were the two guys that everyone wanted a rookie card of. So I think this being his best rookie card, in my opinion, it definitely deserves to be on this top 100 list. And it's an iconic card. If you think of Patrick Mahomes, you think of that card. I mean, in my opinion, you think of that card first. So it's great to be on the list. Like I said, some days I could see it being number 50. Some days I could see it being number 90. So I think being at 78 is a respectable place to be at. I know I talked about this the last time I was on the show. To be on the top 100, it's an amazing feat right there. This is a top 100, not of 2020. It's the top 100 of all time. So to be here, I think it's a great spot.
Yeah, really, really great comments there. When I think about high-end modern rookie cards, and I ask the question, which are iconic, I'm kind of torn because sometimes I think about Prism. Prism's ultra recognizable. It comes in many different forms. You got the low end base and you got the high end blacks and golds and things like that. But the image is iconic. And then I also think that NT is iconic, right? And so you've got two different types of iconic. If you were to say which one you think is more iconic out of the Prism and the National Treasures of the Mahomes card, which one would you say?
Okay, here's my thing. If you look at basketball, I'm going to come back to this in a second. If you take a look at basketball and you take a look at Luka's Prism or Luka's NT, I go Luka's Prism all day. But if you take a look at this card, you take Mahomes Prism or you take the NT, I'm taking NT all day. And the reason why I'm taking NT all day is because there's only one silver prism. There's not a base prism. There's not a silver prism. There's only one silver prism. For this, I just think I just never got behind the Prism card for the Mahomes. I've always thought the National Treasures was his most iconic card. So for this player, Patrick Mahomes, I'm going with the most iconic card being the NT. And I think it's like I said, it's one of those cards that really gapped both sides together. And I think it's one of those cards that people started seeing the real value in high-end products with this card right here. So for those reasons, I'm saying the NT.
Yeah, it's a card that I'm happy to see make the list too, because in reality, the majority of the cards on this list, they're not new, they're not modern, right? The cards that we've seen recently include cards like the 1951 Parkhurst Gordie Howe and the Barry Bonds tops traded, and the 1996 Kobe Bryant. We're talking about cards that have real history, even if they're not ancient. They're cards that came out a long time ago. And so it's kind of cool to see a new card that people recognize as iconic, even though it was only made a few years ago.
And I'm going to make my first bold prediction this series. And there won't be many, but this is my one bold prediction. When Patrick Mahomes' career is done, I think this card will be a top 20 card of all time, because I think there's more Super Bowls in his future. I think there's plenty of more records to be broken, and this is going to be the card to own. If you're a Patrick Mahomes fan, if you're a football fan, I definitely try to add some now. His stock's still a little bit down. Obviously, I can't add this card to my collection, but I can go add some rookie autographs or even some Prism stuff like that. So even some base cards. If you're a collector and you believe in a guy like this, he has so much football left. He's just only going to get better, in my opinion. I try to add some of his stuff now, but this one right here, I think it's going to be a top 20 card of all time when his career is all said and done. It's still so early into it.
I love your comment that it's not one that you can afford, because the reality is most of us can't, right? I can't
Yeah.
go out. It's a huge dollar card. And it's kind of neat to see, the iconic list isn't a list about what's most expensive. It's about, which cards are most iconic. And that's so difficult to determine, and people have different feelings on these things. But I think it's neat that for whatever reason, this ultra high end card of Patrick Mahomes, came in as high as it did on the list. In
Well, you know
fact,
what?
sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry to sorry to cut you off. You know what else I think about this card right here that makes it iconic is that since 2020, 2000, when Tom Brady was a rookie, 2000, we've all been saying, "Oh, I gotta get this rookie. He's the next Brady. Oh, I gotta invest in this guy. He's the next Brady." We've been investing for over 20 years of guys we thought would be the next Brady, and it's never happened. But with Mahomes, it's been the closest thing yet. And it's been one of those guys that you bought a few cards when he was a rookie or his first or second, his first season, and you've made a lot of money off of it because of, if you're willing to flip it, you made a lot of money off of it. So all those people who have been investing in the next Brady and they can continue to this day, this is the one that's actually done it. Yeah. I think to this day. So I think that's one of the reasons Mahomes, at least this National Treasures one, belongs on the most iconic cards of all time, top 100 list.
If he retired today, he's probably Hall of Fame already.
And first ballot.
And that's, as a guy who's been in the league for 5 years. And so you think about where he'll be in the future. He's one of those rare opportunities to have somebody who has a great past and still has the vast majority of his career to go. Yeah. So at number 78, that is the 2017 National Treasures Patrick Mahomes NTRPA. Tomorrow we'll be back with card number 77 on the Iconic 100 list. And until then, happy collecting.